Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning, Dr.
Good morning, Dr. Blake.
Hey, I figured that out. Look at this. Terrific.
Is the video on?
Oh, no, the video. Let's see. Wait a second. There we go. Okay, no one said they could see me, so I guess you guys were happy about that.
We can see you now.
Now, okay, I figured that out. Yes, okay.
Yeah.
How's everyone doing?
Fine.
Good.
Doing very well this morning. Thank you.
Family's fine,
Mm-hmm.
generally? Okay,
Yes.
good.
Yes.
There's who are moderators?
Very well this morning. Thank you.
Lisa Jones
Lisa, okay, Lisa's one, and then.
and Mike McMullen.
McMullen?
Yes, so they fixed up the event.
Oh, there's our student SGA president. Hello, Eva.
Hello. Hi.
On the background. Okay.
Thank you. I'm on campus in spirit.
Absolutely. Let's see, there's Amanda. Who's in the okay. Who's Sue on here? Looks like Sabrina is,
Good morning, everyone.
Good
Morning.
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 So if I do Alt A, I can actually, no, it doesn't. How many people are we going to be able to see on this? Does anyone know?
Good morning, Dr. Blake. You should be able to see everyone. I believe there is about 20 to 30 that you see on the first page. And then there are smaller blue arrows on either side of the screen that allows you to scroll through everyone.
Okay, I got that. Okay. Okay, who's let's see, am I, can you hear me?
Yeah,
They can hear me, okay. So we have two facilitators we're looking at now. It's about 10:06. Okay, so we probably should get started. And I'll just open by saying that welcome everyone. Just to know that many of us on the phone for the first time were unaware of the last time there was a town hall that HEBA, the students, had organized. Apologize for not seeing the email in time, but you know, there've been many balls that we've been juggling. Wasn't intentional, because the point is we are all here because of who? Because of the students, and our expectation that you're going to transform the world and make it a better place for everyone. So just keep that in mind. Never any slight or anything that's intentional in terms of excluding students from any conversation, and most of you should know that about me, and also about the team. So we're here to have honest, open conversation, but just to also let you know that I am not just about talk, okay? I'm about action. We want to change things. We don't want to just talk about them. Talk is good, protest is good, but I'm over 60 years old. I've been through a number of protests. I've been through a number of civil rights level engagements, and the promises have not resulted in the kinds of outcomes that we all desire. And that is that every human being get treated with respect, not only for their humanness, but also for their potential and for the experiences and the background that they have in order to add that to our direction for progress and well-being for everyone. So just get us on the same plane. Now I'm going to turn it over to who are our moderators. There's Dr. Jones. Oh, and there's Dr. McMullen. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
And Dr. Blake, SGA President Hibaloya is going to make an introductory statement, so I want to turn it over to our SGA President to kick us off.
Hi, so good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for being here at this momentous town hall to discuss injustice and safety within our UHCL community. We know that this grief and pain of recent racially charged events extends throughout our community, and we want you to know, on behalf of the institution and as an individual, I stand with you. We will do everything to help create a better tomorrow, one in which no individual must live in fear they may someday become a target of hate. Today is about amplifying Black voices we have during this critical moment in our country's history. We need to discuss what is next and how to continue this conversation and create a tangible change in our UHCL community. I'm so thankful to initialize a needed discussion between students and UHCL leaders. Today's conversation is to provide us a space to reflect and identify what are the actions we can take and how we can move forward. I would like to introduce our two faculty moderators now, Dr. Lisa Jones and Dr. Mike McMullen.
Thank you. Good morning. It is a wonderful pleasure to be here. I am here just to briefly offer you some personal guiding principles as we move forward in this dialogue. One is to be sure to welcome multiple viewpoints. Lean into your discomfort. We need to be able to all do that. Actively listen, challenge with care, and we are always going to maintain a safe space.
And hello, welcome as well. This is Dr. McMullen. I want to add a few ground rules as we have our discussion. Please keep yourself on mute unless you are speaking. Use the raised hand feature and take turns while speaking so that everyone can be heard, or use the chat box to communicate with SGA leaders your questions or your comments. And most of this would be questions for our administration. Not everyone has to contribute, but if you choose to, we encourage you to have your voice heard. Challenge yourselves to listen rather than just respond to what you're hearing. Please provide content warnings if you are choosing to share details of the violence that has occurred nationally. We're here to listen and make a concerted effort to move towards healing and support. This is an opportunity to learn from each other and to move forward, as Dr. Blake just said. Please know that we'll be taking notes specifically regarding the actions the students would like to see for our campus to move forward. And know that this town hall is being recorded today so that we'll have an official record of everything that was said. And I have one more guideline, I guess, where we have a limited time with our administration today. So we'd like to limit people to maybe just a one question follow-up after you give your initial question, so that we can give a wider variety of people a chance to raise questions and to make comments. So thank you very much.
So with that, we are ready to get started with our first question. Okay, I'm not able to see.
I'm looking at the chat right now, waiting.
Okay. perhaps while we're waiting, if Dr. Blake can just give us a brief, some ideas of how you think we should move forward from this point on in addressing some of the issues that were offered or talked about in the first town hall, or in general, things that have happened in the last few weeks, how U of H Clear Lake can move forward.
Okay, in terms of the first town hall, I haven't had the opportunity to review the transcript. I did not know about it until, what is today, Tuesday? But what I want the students to understand is that, again, we've been protesting these injustices, before my lifetime. And as Hiba said, we are here, if we can identify meaningful actions that we can take, that we can then become the model for transforming the society. I really do believe that. And yes, there are things that I've asked my vice presidents to do in terms of an actionable item. Also the faculty senate, you're all aware of that. They may not have been actionable items that resonated well with everyone, but the important thing is that we now have action direction. What I need to hear, because I'm not a Gen Xer or a millennial or anyone else, I'm not here. I don't know what is most important to changing the way in which we see each other, the way we affirm each other, the way we interact with each other, the way we follow each other. Those are all important dimensions of our common humanity if we're going to affect change in the university, the broader community, the region, and then the world. So what is it? What kinds of actions do the students need us to take in order to transition the world to the one that they want to be a part of, that they want to lead in, that they want to work in? That's what's important, as opposed to us talking about our perspectives. We all have, there must be what? How many people would you say are on the call? Over 100 people totally on the call. We all come from different experiences. We come from different perspectives on the world. What we need to do is to identify for the next few generations, the ones who are going out to lead, what do we need to do to leverage, okay, what we understand has happened historically that has been disrespectful, illegitimizing, cruel, okay, inhumane in many ways, about persons who are characteristically different from those in power according to history. That's really what I want to hear. I'm here to help make a difference. And that difference isn't about my past, even though my past actually guides me. It is about your future. So I need to hear that. Our leaders need to hear that.
Thank you, Dr. Blake.
Oh, the cop.
So I see that someone has asked if it is possible to give a very brief overview or summary of what transpired in the first town hall.
Yes, I asked that question. This is Dr. Newsom. I asked that question. I had asked about attending that, and it was indicated that that was more for students than for faculty, and that a town hall would follow for faculty. And so I made a decision not to attend that first town hall because of the response that I received about it. So at this point, we're talking about things that came up, but I have no clue what came up or what questions were asked. And so I don't want a full-blown, just kind of a brief overview of what was discussed in the first town hall to give us some context. I have no context for this meeting because I don't know what has already transpired.
Leah, this is Kathy. Dr. sent the verification report for us to approve to us at the site.
So did someone say were the notes shared with the community, campus community at large?
Hiba, can you sort of give an overview? You were at that first town hall, correct? Can you just give an overview of what some of the major concerns were that the students expressed?
Okay, I was not at that community dialogue, but I can pull that up.
Well, who was? It's important for someone who was there to provide us with.
This is Aaron Hart. I came in on the last hour. Is there someone from Student Affairs who was on for the entire call that can give a brief 30-second synopsis?
No, the issue is somebody from Student Affairs who is a staff member does the summary. It won't reflect the student perspective. What we're trying to get here is not an objective, a purely objective, factual perspective. We're also trying to get at some of the concern, the affect underneath that, okay? Okay, there's Zamina said she can. So Zamina, thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Jimena, and I was kind of a representative for SGA in our last meeting. Sorry that I'm not live, but I'm in work right now. So something that came up, I feel, was a lot of lack of safety in campus and lack of engagement when it comes to change. There was a lot of descriptions of how people of color or just minorities in general don't feel safe in campus, don't feel like police work with them, don't feel like classes are safe or that teachers respect minorities. There was also a conversation of how the response to everything that was going on in campus was too late. It was too little and too late. And how, for having a school that has such a big minority, the representation, I guess, how there's not enough to show support for them, how sometimes the support is wrong, or like not wrong, but sometimes it's not enough or it doesn't reflect what the minorities need, if that makes sense.
Wonderful, absolutely wonderful. Okay, let's see, too little response was too little too late. I'll take full responsibility for that. I'm not going to go into much into my own personal experiences around, my goodness, the abusive treatment and the stereotyping of African Americans, Black Latinos, Puerto Ricans, the whole bit. I'm not going to go into that. What I did not want to do was to go out reactively like has historically happened in my experience. What I wanted to do was to reflect on what I understood about the history of this country and the lack of genuine progress that, let's see, we need to, is there a problem? Can people hear me?
No, we can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you.
What I did not want to do was to do what I had experienced most of my 60 plus years. And to go out and just express the anger, etc. I really wanted to shift my thinking toward action, which is what should we do, particularly since this happens time and time again because of what I call incremental change. We need change that's transformative. So I asked each of my VPs to give me one actual item that would hopefully start to push us in the right direction as a lever, okay, to get started in the right direction, as opposed to what typically happens. Let's have a meeting. Let's do a task force. Let's do a committee. No, let's come up with an action that we're going to commit to, okay? And then let's arrange for that to evolve in a way in which helps us with the transformations that we want to see. Okay, that's the same thing that I'm asking students to help us with now. There are a number of things that were mentioned that I'm not as clear on, and of course I'm not as clear on is because I'm not in the classroom. I'm not moving around the campus after certain hours. So what we need to hear, and then also not reflecting the support, not reflecting what the minority students feel that they need. So if we can get some information about that in specific, then what we can do is we can take action around those things, okay? So if the students would help us to understand what those things mean in practical, pragmatic terms, okay? And Hamina, I really appreciate the way in which you presented those points. Thank you.
So we have some more things from students coming in. So we had Lisa who said, we feel like our voices are not heard when our concerns are brought up. I also discussed that the UHCL police do not interact with the UHCL students. Therefore, calling them in times of need may be concerning for Black students when we don't even know who they are. And there's also a question that says, what was the purpose of the financial literacy class and how does that correlate to Black people getting killed?
I can answer that. I mean, first and foremost, the financial literacy course, if you know anything about the literature and the findings in higher ed, public higher ed in particular, first generation students, working class, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, there's a jet going over. First generation students, which I'm one of, working class students, which I'm one of, students of color who are disproportionately members of those first two groups, and then also students in general. Okay, students in general across the board have little understanding of finances and what the cost of an education needs to be, okay, depending on what resources are available throughout the society in order for them to leverage, okay? So this was not intended to be a smack at persons like me, and I've reported who I was. It actually was a lever so that we could actually help everyone, okay? Particularly those who come in with fewer resources, which I was one, okay, for a whole range of reasons. The more financially literate everyone is, okay, I believe the better they can serve their families and the communities in which they reside. If Mr. Denny, who his expertise is in the financial and budgeting area, wants to add to that, he can. But it was not a slight at people like me, okay, when I was like you. It wasn't. It was across the board, and it is more than evidenced, but disproportionately affecting first generation working class and students of color. Mr. Denny.
Well, thank you, Dr. Blake, and you did an excellent job of kind of bringing out the points. This was an initiative that I brought forward, and it really stems on the president's directive that we create actionable items that will really move us forward, and not just in a reactionary, but in a solution. And if we genuinely believe that one of the solutions to the inequities in our society is education and mobility, paths for people that otherwise don't have those paths open. One of the key roadblocks to all our students, and obviously, as President Blake said, disproportionately affects students of color, underrepresented minorities, students first generation, students of working class families, is the cost of attaining a higher education. And while we are doing everything we can to attempt to address those costs and to keep them low, a lot of understanding can position students to get the financial aid that they may have missed because of not filing their FAFSA on time, and it's a very complicated process to navigate. And while we have resources to help, the financial literacy courses are intended to give our students those tools to better navigate that system and be more successful, and at the end of their journey actually be walking across the stage, as opposed to incurring debt and not being able to cross the stage and not having that true path of opportunity that we believe is necessary. And so that's how the financial literacy courses connect, is that one of the solutions is education. And this is an attempt to give more tools to be actually to get that education and to, like I said, walk across the stage.
Okay, we have some more comments and concerns from the students. Sheridan said, my main concern is that the responsibility has been placed on Black students. I'm not understanding why we're being called on to create solutions. And one more, we have Miles saying, I agree with Lisa. Since the UHCL PD moved to their new building, I have hardly ever seen them around campus. Where are they? What are they doing? How are they supporting students? I'm hopeful the new police chief can foster a positive relationship with our community, but I think community engagement is an imperative first step.
It's not, Hippo, would you repeat that first statement about Black students shouldering or whatever? I need to hear that again.
The first one was, my main concern is that the responsibility has been placed on Black students. I'm not understanding why we're being called on to create solutions.
Okay, let's go back and let's talk about some of the things that I think, Hippo, you said in your opening statements. Historically, what has happened is others have created solutions that have been inadequate, okay? Others have decided on what is best for students in the space. And just so that you know, I was in the same place you're in when I was in your position, undergraduate school, okay? So if someone else is going to tell you what you should do, listen to those words very carefully, tell you what you should do to make your life more meaningful, to take advantage of opportunities, to be better respected and appreciated and included, all of those phrases that I've been hearing all my life. None of the solutions that other folks have come up with have worked, because we're back in the same place. Okay, I'm listening to some of the concerns that students are expressing that Hamina summarized. And these are not different from when I was in school, when my son was in school, now at least one of my grandchildren is in school. So the solutions in terms of what will work, what will be meaningful, will functionally change things, needs to be seriously influenced by you students. Okay, I've heard one thing. One thing is that the police are visible, okay? And if they were visible and engaging with students and actually going into the classes and participating in some panels and doing whatever, that students would feel more comfortable, they would feel that they were more engaged in the community, and also by extrapolation that they care about. Okay, that is something that we can do. And Chief Miller can talk about some strategies that he can come up with that then students can give us feedback on whether they're working or not, right? And I see his hand is up.
Yeah, Sheridan has a question, or she wants to share. So Sheridan.
So I'm just kind of trying to seek clarification, and definitely correct me if I'm wrong, because I definitely could have misinterpreted it. But I believe you're saying, on a shorter note, that not that it's our jobs to find the solutions, but you're saying that people in the past outside of our community, they failed to do so. So now you believe it's our opportunity to guide the way. But at the same time, it seems like we're focused on what Black people need to do to preserve our own lives instead of what people who are threatening our lives need to do. And that's just where I'm a bit confused, as well as I think we're at a point where it's safe to say that the internet is just a gold mine of information. And there's kind of not an excuse to not know what Black people need to be successful, but we need to feel secure. And I think it's a matter of just wanting us to kind of spell it out for administration instead of taking the time to do the work, because the information's there and we've been telling y'all about this forever. Even BSA, we've been explaining that we've had issues as the Black community forever, but all of a sudden people want to hear from us as if we haven't been talking this whole time. So I'm just a bit confused.
So my question would be, Ms. Allison, do you think that the range of issues and the possible solutions are exactly the same in every context? And it's not about knowing what the range is. It's really about knowing what will be most meaningful in the context in which you are. That is Clear Lake, okay? There is a tremendous amount of literature about all of the different variables and the factors. But the question is, which ones will be most impactful for students here? Okay, Black students, Hispanic students, Black Hispanic students, Puerto Rican students, Asian students, international students, because everyone wants to be respected. They also want to be genuinely included, okay? This is also an opportunity for Black voices, which I want to be heard. I'm looking at something that popped up on the screen. Which are the actions that would be most meaningful for Black students and other students to feel more respect, more support, more inclusion, more advancement here, more recognition? Okay, so I've heard one. I mean, I can go to another institution and the relationship between police safety and the students on campus, all students would be different. It would not be a concern, even though it's in the literature, okay? But what has been expressed here is that it is a concern, okay? So that's something that we can work to improve, okay? To change. So that's what I'm talking about, not, going and reading the literature, but actually, what is it that we need to do to improve our campus, our community, on all those levels we've been talking about?
So if we can have the police chief, if you can chime in here and respond. Thank you.
Yes, good morning. In the last town hall, that was my major takeaway, is we need to adapt and have strategies to deal with students on the ground level, not just student leaders and not just the faculty and staff that govern the student leaders. So that's the challenge. The greatest challenge in all of policing, and including on campus, is the perception of crime. So back in the day, whenever I was a young man, the most fearful demographic in society were the elderly. And the reason why that was is they're at home and they're watching TV and they're listening to the radio and they're getting this information, and it gives them a perception of things. So now you fast forward to where we are in society and everybody has this. So at any given time, we're on a 24-hour news cycle, and the things that are happening locally and nationally and internationally can affect us emotionally. And so that's the challenge at the police department at our campus, is how do you address a perception of crime? I assure you that in a practical sense, we have a very safe campus. You can Google the stats. We're anywhere from number 8 out of 77 to 100 and something out of 1,600 campuses as far as safe campuses go. Our crime stats are available online. They're posted monthly. I send them out monthly. You can see what's going on. And if anyone has any questions about what they see on those crime reports, you can reach out to me directly. So back to the students.
Yeah, Chief Miller, can I ask you some questions that the students have for you here?
Okay.
So we've got, is it possible to somehow increase positive, safe police presence within the campus buildings so they can interact with students, such as, but not limited to, having interactive police booths in the building and being present in the SGA meetings?
As far as present in the SGA meetings, you and I have already been talking about that. Just as a sidebar note for everyone, Hiba and I have created a biweekly meeting, strategic partnership, if you will, to be able to talk about these very things with the student leaders, go over our policies, go over our practices, just so you know that those things are happening. But as far as what's going on in the buildings and positive police presence, yes, we can do that. Of course, there are challenges in executing it with the staffing. One of the ideas I had several months ago was to create a police storefront where the police department building used to be, to where it's forward facing, has the lights, looks cool, and then it's occupied, especially at the strategic times when the students are coming and going. And if they have any issues, they have concerns, you can stop by there and say hi, talk, or do whatever you want. And another thing would be, of course, we have our community outreach officer. She can be in any one of the buildings at any given time. She's at all the orientations. She does many things as far as being visible. And then myself, I had the idea, which I almost talked myself out of it. When I mentioned it to Dr. Blake, she liked it. And it was an idea of ask the chief, quote, ask the chief, and have a sign, and you will make an announcement, come ask the chief. Doesn't say what. And I'm in a particular area at any given time. People know about it through advertising. And the idea is a conversation starter. So they see a sign that says, ask the chief. They see the chief. They come and ask, what am I supposed to ask you?
So I have another
So,
Chief Miller. We have a student that said, you keep saying that our campus is so safe, and yet last session, several people spoke up and said that we did not feel safe due to our history here, and you continue to invalidate our perspectives due to these awards you've received.
okay. And when I ask why people feel that way, what I need to know is, what are your experiences? What have you experienced specifically, so that I can address it if it's something that's within my power to do. So at no point is my intent to invalidate anyone, but I need some help understanding what the nature of the issue would be.
UHCL is a safe campus, but as a Black student, when I leave campus, how can I not get shot by police when I'm traveling as a business major? We know, even my 12-year-old niece knows, Black boys are targeted after high school. Also, this is someone else, it's not the perception of crime on our phones. It's about the personal connection and experiences that the UHCL students have witnessed themselves. And Sheridan said, we specifically shared our experiences. Dr. Hart asked and we answered.
Hey, Hiba. This is Dr. McGonigal in Human Resources. And if you don't mind, I'd like to jump in. First, I'd like to say thank you for allowing me to be part of this incredibly important discussion. But more so, one of the things from an HR perspective that Chief Miller and I have talked about is inclusion, and how to be more inclusive or engaging between the police department and our student body population. And one of the things, and the reason I said I jumped in from an HR perspective is there's moving forward with the search process for new police officers on campus. And one of the things I recommended to Chief Miller, and he was very supportive and embracing of, was including students on the search process, so that students see who these people are that are being interviewed, and they understand they can ask the relevant questions and the pertinent questions that are important to them in the process. So that starts to establish that trust factor, that, hey, that, you know, that we're going to not only be part of this process, but we're going to make sure these officers that we're bringing in here are the quality that we want to see on this campus, along with the ones we already have that are high quality officers. So that being part of the process, having students included in the process is incredibly powerful to provide that voice. And that's just one step from a HR perspective that we can, you know, assist the chief with in the police department and making sure that inclusion is achieved.
So we only have about 17 minutes left. So I just want to be sure to address everything that the students are saying, since this town hall is for them to share their voice. So we have, what will UHCL commit to doing in order to educate its students about systematic racism across all disciplines from an academic affairs standpoint?
Oh, thank you. I'll take that. First of all, I want to thank SGA and the moderators for putting this together. You know, I think Mr. Denny sort of touched upon something, and the president did too. I think we all hope that the following statement is correct, and that is that, you know, we really have to educate in order for the world to change. And, you know, I think the outpouring of support that we've seen suggests that real change is possible. And what I mean by that is, you know, a quest for equity, social and economic justice. But I'm going to go back to the words that the President Blake said early on. Those last two statements I said, they're just that, they're words. And when the president asked me for action, I partnered with Faculty Senate. And if you look at the letter, it talks about the Center for Engagement, Teaching and Learning. Because if we don't, you know, we can say these are words, we need to make action. But I've been in higher ed for almost 30 years. And the challenge is we've been trying to educate for 30 years. And to the president and the other points that have been made, the changes haven't happened. And so I think the opportunity is to make a difference. And so from the academic, to answer the question that was asked, I'm so pleased to see the ideas that are being generated from the faculty. And the Center for Engagement, Teaching and Learning is going to be an opportunity for faculty to think about how to put aspects of discussions of racism, equity, and inclusion into their courses, potentially into minors, and maybe moving even to programs. I want to stop and ask Dr. Heather Kannenberg, Faculty Senate President, to provide one concrete example of a proposal coming from faculty that will roll into this center that's opening in the fall. So Dr. Kannenberg, would you please?
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Provost Berberich. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to talk briefly because I want to leave space for the students to use their voice, because I've appreciated hearing from everyone. There are several activities that the faculty are thinking of that are sort of bubbling up out of the faculty and faculty senate, engagement and activities and actions we can take. And one of them is we are developing a proposal for race and diversity fellowships to support faculty adjusting their courses individually within their disciplines, from biology to social work, and also to develop new courses to be provided to students that infuse understandings of racism, white supremacy, the expectation and understanding of systemic racism within their discipline, and to situate it within the larger context of societal forces. I'll stop now. You're good.
I just want to make sure that we have only 13 minutes left. So I just want to make sure that we're okay. So this was a comment from earlier. How can faculty work together to ensure that new students are getting an interdisciplinary understanding of how race impacts each field of study? The first year seminar is a great course and teaches this to a degree, but it should extend into all basic courses, and faculty should work to make sure that all students, not just first year, but transfer as well, obtain that education. Further, we have, it was shared last session that there is no game plan. Is there any idea of the next steps now?
I'll jump in with some of the game plan. So to that point, since that last town hall, we have established a campus-wide work group on race, equity, and inclusion. And this includes partners from all divisions across campus. This will consist of faculty and staff that will put tangible plans in place as it relates to all sectors of the campus. So this group will start meeting immediately and will report out progress through SGA. So I want SGA to know that. So that's one plan right there. And I know there are other plans, and I'll let others speak to those plans.
We also have what will UHCL commit to doing in order to educate its students about systematic racism across all disciplines. Oh, I think I already got that one. My fault. Sorry, I got confused. Wait, we have where do we find the financial plans of the university for the next 1 to 5, 20 years? How do we figure out what projections are made, how much money the school has, what changes we can expect to be made, and what changes we can ask for so that we know seriously they'll be addressed because of how well it falls within the budget? I wanted to ask what UHCL can do to educate UHCL students and staff about the indigenous people that lived on and around the UHCL campus for thousands of years before Anglo settlement, specifically the Karankawa and Atakapa people. I'm so sorry if I butchered that. And then also, how have the proposed actions and the faculty senate ideas been shared? You said through student government and newsletters. There's more. It would be great to incorporate that information into our public spaces. So as we appreciate our beautiful campus, we can also be aware of the history of the land that we were on. Let's see. And then what will UHCL commit to doing in order to educate its students about systematic racism across all disciplines?
This is Mark Denny. I can take, and I want to be very brief, the one question about our financial transparency and our financial planning and how are we able to communicate that to students. And that has certainly been one of the challenges since I've been here at UHCL, is that the university has not communicated that in a transparent, easy to understand way, and has not done a good job of demonstrating future planning. Has been more of a look back. And I'm implementing several initiatives to be able to work on that and improve that, and giving students a voice in how they can hold public institutions accountable for the resources that they give to these institutions to accomplish their goals. And I will come forward with Hiba. We'll have some conversations about how to be able to do that. And I've got a wide range of options, but I want to make sure we select the ones that are going to be most successful for students and really give them the understanding, the tools that they want. And so I'll be reaching out to you soon with to begin a conversation about how we start doing that. Like I said, I've got a lot of ideas, a lot of options, but we want to make sure we land on the one that's really going to be effective.
And Hib, if I can just add from the academic side without going into the details, I want to tie together the work group that Dr. Hark talked about as a conduit of information, as well as working with SGA. I was writing down some of the suggestions as you read them about what students are looking for in terms of the academic experience and how we can integrate this issue of systemic racism, equity, and inclusion. And so we're working with Faculty Senate on this, but I think it's important for students to know we're going to use SGA as well as this work group to get feedback and to make sure that as we're building these academic programs, minors, and courses, that we're engaged with the students through that process. Thanks.
Okay, we have a few other questions. So this one is, I have witnessed firsthand how financial literacy can empower individuals to become more engaged community citizens from my years in financial services. Minorities are traditionally underserved, and it is great UHCL is taking steps to close that gap. I would like to hear how access to healthcare, specifically mental health care, is being addressed. Minorities are disproportionately underserved with access to mental health care, which is important as our society is navigating these ambiguous ambiguous times, and it can be mentally draining. Should promoting access to mental health care services, reducing mental health care stigmas amongst minorities, etc., be a consideration in how we at UHCL are working to cure the disease of racism and social injustice?
Brilliant question. Brilliant. That's an absolutely brilliant question. And it's something that I've been talking about since before the pandemic and before stay home, stay safe. I stated this way, that without your health, it doesn't matter how successful you are. And that is all health, mental, physiological as well. It's something that definitely we need input, again, from students, particularly those who are historically discriminated against. And I'm not going to, again, go into it personally, but I would love to hear, I believe it's Nurse Pickett is online to talk about some of those issues. Also, counseling services. I've talked about expanding those. We need to expand those. And there truly is, within certain racial ethnic groups, a stigma attached to seeking out assistance, okay? And for a whole range of reasons, we won't go into that. But for me, health, mental health and all that, particularly now, in the broader context, not just the pandemic, but my goodness, all of these continued senseless attacks and killings is so important. And it also relates, just as a point, and I will stop, it relates to the sense of safety in the space that, which I believe the students are talking about. This is an amorphous kind of sense of being unsafe. It's not about the stats. It is about the way in which we function, we interact, we connect within the community. So we'll be working on that too.
We have one last question, I think, before we are going to have to wrap this up. But how will UHCL ensure that the Black community of students, faculty, and staff will feel seen, safe, and heard when they have not expressed when they have expressed they currently do not? Would you like me to repeat that? I'll repeat that. How will UHCL ensure that the Black community of students, faculty, and staff will feel seen, safe, and heard when they have expressed they currently do not? Oh, Dr. Blake, we can't hear you. You're on mute.
I think that's exactly what we're talking about, is that we've missed the mark. Let's just put it that way. Despite good intentions, we've missed the mark. And Black students are not feeling safe. They're not feeling heard, seen, and included in meaningful ways, genuine ways. What I'm going to say now, and we can talk about it, Hiba, you and Hamina have been in meetings with me. I have met with SGA. We can actually talk about expanding that to a student advisory board that meets with me and also meets with the core leadership membership as appropriate for the question or the issue of concern, so that we can actually take actionable direction around these issues, okay? Just so that everyone knows, there's no one on this team, this administrative team, I don't think there are any students who do not want everyone to feel that they are respected, I didn't say, our actions don't often result in what we intend them to, that everyone feels respected, they feel safe, they feel that their history is part of the education here. I've heard that a number of times, that they have a fuller education, not just about one perspective, but about multiple perspectives, particularly in the complexity of the way in which human beings relate and deal with one another. That's all heard, but we need to hear your voices so that the actions we're taking aren't taken in some kind of vacuum, and that that there are definitely contextual right here within our university space. And also know, and this is important, is that, and I think someone mentioned it, that about not feeling safe when they're off the campus. We have responsibilities in terms of outreach as well. I don't want a student to leave the campus and then feel the way what students are talking about them feeling right now. Unsafe, the perception of unsafe. And I can tell you that Black women as well as Black men have that feeling at times, okay?
As this meeting wraps to conclusion, I'm going to go in with my closing remarks. But before I do so, I think we still have a lot of ground to cover when it comes to students. So I think that we'll be proposing another town hall soon. So, and hopefully for 2 hours next time, so that way we can get more student concerns addressed. But I hope that people are waking up and can maintain momentum with the movement and help elevate one another and help each other. It is great. People are detecting these injustices, but once people see how hard the work is and how exhausting it is, people might get scared and not continue their efforts. I am committed to ensuring this conversation continues and creates a tangible change in our UHCL community. It's going to be important to continue this momentum, continue to normalize these conversations, and normalize the push and actual action towards making change. The results of this change is going to come from multiple avenues and departments on campus. Today, we are going to take this conversation and take action. I think that wraps it up. Wait, one more thing. Actually, I almost forgot. The Office of Student Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion and Counseling Services is offering a 2-part series aimed at helping those students, staff, and faculty who are feeling overwhelmed by both the ongoing traumatic police brutality towards Black and African American people nationally, as well as the recent global pandemic. This will be a space to learn healthy coping skills, reflect on the impact of recent events, and discuss the mental and emotional weight of being part of a racial minority group in the United States during these stressful events. The first session will take place tomorrow, Wednesday, July 1st, and registration links can be found in the chat.
Thank you, Hiba, and thank you, students, for taking it on like a bull by the horns and taking action. And as you said, it doesn't end here. This is, this is a long haul. This is a long haul. But the more we meet together, talk about actionable items that'll work here, decide how to deliver on them, then we can affect this change, okay? It is heavy lifting. It's gonna get heavier as well. So all of you who want to be on this team, please let me know, okay? And I am going to talk with Hiba and Zanita regarding an advisory board. Student advisory board. And the time that we're looking at right now, it couldn't be a better time because we're at the beginning of strategic planning. I wish Dr. Wooten had an opportunity to say something. We'll be able to literally include these actionable items within that framework around what our pillars are in terms of making this a better university and also helping to transform our community, our state, and the region and the world.
Thank you so much to everybody for coming. And I believe that this was a great meeting and a great demonstration of a feeling of community. And if administration is okay, SGA would like to schedule a follow-up town hall and updates on the steps to move the university forward. Also, thank you so much to the moderators, Dr. Lisa Jones and Dr. Mike McMullen. And thank you so much to the DSA team who helped SGA put all this together. We look forward to working with you guys. Thank you.
You're welcome. We didn't do anything. You guys are simply amazing. Amazing. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, students, for being willing to participate, and I look forward to engaging with you on this in the future.
Thank you, Hawks. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, students.
You all.